one. Bam, we are live. Welcome to ChoochCast, live streaming on YouTube. Coming to you live from the home office in Magalia, California. I got with me a fantastic baseball man, a fantastic person. And not only that, you're going to learn a little bit more about him, and maybe I will at the same time. That is what we do here on ChoochCast. Mr. Tommy Weber has joined me on ChoochCast. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well, my friend. How are you?
I am good, man. I am good, man. Looking good over there, man. And you are in the upper part of New York, I take it, no?
I'm in southern Dutchess County, which is just above Westchester. So it's about an hour and 20 minutes outside of New York City.
Okay.
Where I live.
Yes.
We're up at our place up here, which thank God we have, because it's really given us a great place to escape to. In fact, my wife's mom is 92, going on 93, lives alone, not far from us in the city. So we have to constantly go back and forth, make sure she's taken care of. She's a rock star, one of those greatest generation people that has seen it all. So she's completely unflustered by all of this. We could all take a good lesson from how she's handled this. It's amazing.
Oh man, that is awesome. And that is true, right? Because I mean, it's the greatest generation, okay? And I have family members, of course, in that generation, and they go, like my Auntie Lorraine likes to say, "Oh, that virus thing," that kind of stuff. And I go, "Well, Auntie, it's a little my great auntie, it's a little bit more than that." And she goes, "Oh, they're just taking it in stride, man." So I'm glad that everyone is safe and healthy up in your family up there in New York, man. Most definitely. Yeah, it's been a while, my friend, but you know what? Just like riding a bike, man, we get right back on it. All right, and we're gonna jump into our wheelhouse real quick, man. We're gonna talk about a little Major League Baseball, something that maybe you want to expand on, man. But I wanted to ask your opinion as a former coach, as a person in the baseball world, who has a heartfelt connection to the game, like myself. All right. So how do you feel about this, what Major League Baseball is doing with shortening the draft coming up in June from 40 rounds to 5? What is your initial thought on that?
Well, it's a big number, and the number itself, I know, gets a lot of people's eyes open. I do think that it would be impractical to have a full draft in a season where you didn't play, because you're not going to get rid of any players. You have no attrition. So if you don't have any attrition, it's not unlike what the college programs are going to go through. If you're allowing kids to remain and you're bringing players in, well, there are only so many seats at the dance.
Sure.
And I think that's part of why baseball is doing it. I don't know that it's fair to get into their motivations, because I'm not there. But I hope that it's not part of some grander plan that they have for reducing, minor league teams or anything like that. That would be very disappointing. But I do think that, unfortunately, some kids who would have gotten a chance to play are not going to get a chance to play, and that's
that is the unfortunate thing. And in a perfect world, right, we'd have because it's so hard to make the major leagues in the first place. We know this, man, and to lessen the pool for that, to me, is going to not only that disadvantage the future of baseball. Now, hopefully this is just a one-off thing. Okay, hopefully this is just a one-off thing where, obviously with what's going on in the world, that we have to, they have to be versatile. But I don't, the cynic in me, and I got a little bit of that in me. The cynic in me, it says that, they were trying to get rid of 40+ teams in the minor leagues before this happened. Okay, and this was when the revenues were high. Now I understand baseball's attendance has been declining. I noticed that. I know that. One thing I think we have to take in context here, and follow me on this and see what you think. The baseball owners now are much, much different than they were 10, 20 years ago. They're corporations now, okay? So they have interest in everything. Baseball is a thing that they have in their portfolio, all right? So that being said, with the pandemic and with the virus creating all this economic instability, okay, their real estate's taking a hit. Their commercial, their commercial contracts, all this stuff. So they're looking at their bottom line, and that's why I think that minor league baseball thing came in before this, because they were watching attendance going down. And I'm just hoping they're not using this as a buffer to further delineate the number of teams, and therefore the number of money they have to pay out in the draft to get the certain amount of prospects. What do you think about that line of thinking?
Well, there is a check and balance that goes in baseball between the players and the owners. So the owners can't act unilaterally. They do have to run almost everything by the Players Association. So I'm hopeful that this is not the impetus for eliminating 40 or 50 minor league teams. I can only hope. Again, I'm a free market capitalist. I have no issue with guys being super rich who own teams. The reality is, if you're not super rich, you can't own a team, you can't employ players, and you can't employ people who work for teams. So
true.
I am a cynic as well. I'm going to choose, and this may not be well informed, to draw a line at my cynicism at that point, and hope.
Okay. Yeah.
And hope and give the benefit of the doubt.
Hey, fair enough. Most definitely. You know what? And I'm gonna take a little bit from that, and I'm gonna temper down my cynicism. All right.
That's fine.
I'm gonna temper it down a little bit, and this is why I like checks and balances with respected people, baseball folks as yourself, because I have my own thoughts on things, and it's great to knock things down and go, okay, let's take a look at other sides.
And the great thing too is we're all motivated by our passions. So sometimes I'm no different from anybody else. I'll say things in the heat of the moment that perhaps if I reflect 10 minutes later, I would like to have not said them. But, our opinions are informed by our passions, our prejudices, our biases, our likes, our dislikes. So, I think, unfortunately, one of the things about this is most of us who aren't epidemiologists have no other alternative but to wait and see what comes out of all.
Right. And that's the hardest thing for humans to do. It is extremely hard. The patience is just, I'm watching it, you're watching it. You're on the right coast, I'm on the left coast. It doesn't matter, man. Humans are humans. And I'm watching places trying to open up and act like they're normal. And we are going to see in about 10, 14 days how that actually is going to work. And that goes with the patience part. I understand that you want to get back, and economically you have to. I get it. But, is not a little bit, I don't want to say that, but is a matter of inconvenience right now really that out of realm when you look at it maybe 6 months down the road and say, I could have hung in there for another month or two,
I'll say this. My answer to that question is that I would rather not answer that question, because I can't possibly step in the shoes of someone who perceives his life is on the line if he doesn't open up his business.
Right.
Thankfully, I am not in those shoes.
Yes.
And if I were, perhaps that's exactly what I would be doing. I try not to look at a circumstance and say, well, if that were me, this is what I would be doing. Well, the reality is it's not me. So I would rather not say, well, if I was there, I would not be, it would be easy for me to comply. Well, you're not in those shoes. And I think we really need to dig deep down and feel some empathy for people who are acting in a way that perhaps we don't admire or we don't agree with, but their motivations, if we were in their shoes, we might be able to sympathize with.
Well said. Well said. Most definitely. Most definitely. All right. Well, that's the end of the broadcast. No, I'm just kidding. Excellent. Right on, man. Wow, that was fantastic. Hey, man, tell me about that. By the way,
before we go on, you have the best hair of any COVID-19 pandemic person that I have seen so far. God
This
bless
is
you. That's genetics, right?
You know what? This is just, as my father would say sometimes, hey son, it's just superior genetics.
It certainly is.
And I say, Pop, come on. But yeah, I'm a lucky guy, man. No doubt about it. Yeah. No haircut for how long has we been in this? I appreciate that. Right on, man. I'm going for the 70s slick back, 70s slick back kind of rocker look, man. So we'll get there. Yeah. Great. But all right, man. Well, speaking of hair, speaking of head, what about your hat, man? Tell me about your hat, man. It looks. I know a little bit about it, but tell us more about it.
This is part of the For Mom.
Yes.
Charity that Braden and Hunter Bishop began. Their mom, as I'm sure most people, especially everybody should know, and on the West Coast, everybody does know, their mom contracted early Alzheimer's disease at a very young age, about 50 years old, and she passed away last year. So Hunter played for us in 17 and 18, and he's a dear friend of mine, and I've gotten very, very involved in the charity. So anytime I do anything where anybody's going to see it, I try to wear something that is emblematic of the charity to try to get awareness. And it's a fabulous thing that these kids have done. I don't, at that age, I'm sure, God forbid, had that happened to me, I would never have had the strength and the conviction to do what they have done to honor their mother. And I can't think of anything more wonderful to honor someone's memory than to do what they're doing. So every time I get a chance to, I promote this great charity.
That is fantastic. Yes, and I'm very aware of it through you. And then getting to see the actions of Hunter and Braden online, seeing them do their put up that charity. It's called For Moms, and it's check them out. Braden is did make the majors for a spell in the with Seattle.
He's on the major league roster.
He's on the major league roster right now, right? Exactly. And Hunter obviously was a first-round pick of the Giants.
Yes.
And so you Bay Area guys, my friends, man, hey, be looking for him in the next few years. And not only are they great ball players, man, but great people as well. So check that out. All right, man. Well, great stuff. So, I mean, okay, so we got baseball coming to a standstill. They're trying to play in Korea. Okay, they are playing in Korea. What am I talking about? Okay, have you tuned into these games? And if so, what is your take on the level of play, and are you enjoying it?
I think I have, and the level of play is good. It hasn't gripped me in such a way that I'm watching any more than the few innings than I did.
Right.
It's an excellent level. Those guys are really good. They're really good players. If you want to watch good baseball, it's there to watch. The Asian player tends to be a really fundamentally sound player. It's a different kind of game.
That's what I've noticed a lot of difference. Yeah.
It's less of a power game. It's more of a finesse game. The bodies are different. In general, the players are a little smaller and not less athletic, but I just don't think they have the emphasis on power that the American game does. So I think if people need a fix, I think the problem with baseball and with anything else that we're going to try to reopen is I think we might be underselling or at least underestimating the value of the energy you get from a live audience. I would be really concerned if I were baseball and more concerned about that than anything else is what's the impact when somebody turns a game on, whether it's the NBA or the NHL. I mean, if you're watching an NBA game and you hear the sneakers and you hear the players yelling and you hear no crowd noise.
Right.
How compelling is that really going to be? The reality is that 90% of the people in the ballpark at a Yankee game don't know what the infield fly rule is. They're not there for the essence of the game. They couldn't tell the difference between, a shortstop or a quarterback. So it's really the energy that you create by having lots of people together and the music, and that's what makes it a major league game. And the further you go from that, I just wonder, and I don't know, and nobody else does, what's the impact? Is that going to be enough to get people to watch a game that you play every day? It's not football. Football will survive because it's once a week. Baseball's every day. What do you do if in the third day nobody wants to watch anymore?
And that's a great point because I worry about baseball, my first love. I'm worried about it, the declining attendance for the last few years, and now we got now this and the declining attention span. Let's be serious, right? Yeah. You're talking about 90% of the people going to Yankee Stadium not knowing what the infield fly rule is, who's at shortstop, this and that. Right. but it's an entertainment value. And I just, you just brought something up, man. I just got to thinking when you were speaking about that, about how people put games on in the back, when they're doing stuff at their house, out in the yard, whatever, man. They're doing their thing in their car, and they only really listen when the crowd comes up, like oh, and that crowd noise, the roar comes up, right?
I'm sure you do it. You watch so much baseball that sometimes you sort of zone out and you're looking over here, and all of a sudden you hear the crowd, and it cues you that
and you go, whoa, I got to see what that is, man. Let's see what's going on there. And that is an essential part of the game, essential part of, and that's a great point, because that's not going to be a point. There's not going to be a action that is going to be able to do that. So how are they going to tune in, right? That is a definite point that I'm sure Major League Baseball is looking at. But what do they do? I mean, with this pandemic, with they're coming up with all these. I was down in Phoenix, Arizona for a while, man. I was down there during spring training.
Yeah, we were there together. I remember.
Yeah, yes. Most definitely. And so I stayed down there for a while, and they're like, "Oh, everyone's coming to Arizona and I go, "No, they're not. No, they're not. That doesn't seem like a good plan right now to bring everyone together." So you got the Arizona Phoenix plan, and now they're talking about playing in each other's home ballparks. But then you got the states problem, because different states open up at different times or are trying. So, I mean, where do you see? I mean, obviously we are all running blind here. It's the first time for everything. But where do you see as a decent shot of sticking? As we're talking, Major League Baseball is trying to get together with the player union right now and figuring out if they're going to talk about an 80-game season, this and that. Where do you see this going, Tommy, in your mind, realistically?
Well, a very ill-informed opinion is all it is.
Yes, that's all we have right now.
What do I feel? I certainly don't feel optimistic. I don't think there's room for optimism. I think that we see enough, and we could read enough of the tea leaves to know that optimism probably isn't the way to go. To that end, I think that if the players and owners can reach some agreement, I mean, now is when I get a kick out of the players, kind of masquerading as the oppressed proletariat.
Yes. Please tell me more. I'd like to hear
they're that. The migrant farm workers or the seamstresses who are working 15 hours a day, such that they can't take less money since now you're playing at smaller arenas. Somebody should inform the players that when the Rolling Stones play a 3,000-seat arena, they don't get the same money as when they play Wembley and there's 85,000 people. So this notion that you're not going to meet the owners halfway, if I were the owners, I'm sorry, I can't take a 40% hit. And we know the owners will take a 40% hit in revenue playing in empty ballparks. That's at least, because you're not counting what might happen to the television revenue, what might happen in the long term to next year's advertising revenue. That's just in the here and now. Now, if the players aren't willing to meet them, if the players aren't willing to meet them there, I don't know that you really and if the players could actually make a case for why they should be paid full freight, when the very reason they use for paying them so much is the revenues that the owners get. So when those revenues aren't there, I don't know how you could look the public in the eye and make a case for you getting the same amount of money that you get when those same revenues are no longer existing. So,
well, I agree. I don't think they are asking for the same amount of revenue. I don't think they are asking for the same amount, their full salaries. Okay. Now, do they want, for the 80-game season, are they going to ask for half their salary? If that's where I think you're going. And so if they're asking for half their salary, they're shooting for the moon, man. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I definitely agree, because there's no revenue streams other than TV and radio. But how much is that going to be? How much is that going to be? I mean,
Tony Clark said it's a non-starter. See, this is the kind of thing that makes me rail against, and for a million other reasons, including but not limited to the treatment of minor league players and all of that. It makes me rail against the Players Association. And really, at some point, you would like to think that they're mindful of how they are perceived, and that there are some smart guys in the union who say, hey, look, wait a minute, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to anyone. How could we expect the owners ostensibly to finance our part of our income when they don't have any commensurate revenues? It just doesn't work in the most fundamental economic way. I understand you have a contract, but that contract also has provisions that provided for the fact that you had to renegotiate if you're going to be playing in empty ballparks. But I think that's going to be a big problem.
I think it's going to be a large problem. I agree, and I don't think it's people are realizing how much that. I mean, man, I'm telling you right now, if they end up saying, okay, yeah, we can play, but now the players and Major League Baseball cannot get together, and so they don't play because of the argument. Man, I can't imagine the backlash that the players are going to get, and also not only that. We are having an issue with We are having it's a big time, and I worry about this. The interest in the game of baseball. Okay, and I'm a lifetime baseball fan, former amateur player, all this kind of stuff, and I just love the game, coach, all this thing, and just follow the game left and right, and have respect for the game. And I see if there's more hiccups, Tommy, after this. I mean, during a pandemic, like you said, yeah, don't act like a migrant farm worker. Don't act like you have to go into work at a dry cleaning area, working on someone's nails, doing something that is actual work, work. So if they come off like that, that's a terrible look. And you mentioned Tony Clark, man. I'm not impressed with that guy. Not one bit, man. He has been really, really, he's let a few things go by. I don't think the players are totally totally happy with him as well, man. What's your feel on Tony Clark's position right now? And do you think it might be in trouble after this?
I don't know enough about the politics of the Players Association. And when you talk about things that are political, nothing's more political than a union. I don't care what union it is. Unions are crazy political. So
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the baseline.
But I would look, in reality, usually guys who head unions are very popular as long as all the rank and file are making lots of money, because that's all the rank and file cares about. And that's why you have a union. It's not because you're out to do altruistic deeds. The purpose of a union is to feather the nest of its rank and file. That's the very basis for which you would have a union. So I'm really not sure. I mean, Tony Clark sounds like a smart enough guy. I don't know Tony Clark. I don't know if he's really smart, but you don't have to be that smart when you have, the gravitas of the Major League Baseball Players Association behind you. It's a very powerful union. And if precedent means anything, why would they not hold a hard line? They've done it before. I mean, in '94, they canceled the season, for God's sake.
Man. You don't have to tell us that.
Everybody thought, oh, my God, look at the hit they're going to take. Well, they didn't take much of a hit. It didn't take very long before people came back in droves and financed the game and caused revenues to quadruple and to the 10th power, for God's sake. So why not draw a hard line?
Yeah, I understand. I know what I understand. But do you really think those revenues, do you think that people are going to come flocking back? I mean, I'm worried about going to a restaurant, dude. If I want to go to a sit-down restaurant, do you think when is the next time that you're going to feel comfortable around 40,000 people? 10,000 people, 20,000 people. And see, that's why I think it's way different this time, man.
That's a great point. I mean, in the past, your own personal safety was not at stake. And I think about it myself. Like, I want businesses to open up, and my friends who are small business owners and big business owners who employ thousands of people, I want them to be open. But I thought to myself, like, what am I really going to be willing to do without thinking about it quickly? Like, am I going to do this? Like, am I going to go to a game in August? Right. Why? Well, I mean, I might stay home watching on TV. It's one thing, but what's going to compel me to go, and what's not going to compel me, what's going to compel me to stay, is my own personal well-being and the well-being of my family, more than anything else.
Most definitely. And
So,
and I think that is going to be, people think like, okay, we're going to open up and this and that. And I think that, we're seeing this already, fits and starts, man, about businesses opening up. But, there's no way there's going to be the demand, even if you do open up, that there was before all this happened. And so how are those businesses going to stay up? I just feel for them, man. I feel for them. I don't know how that's going to work, and so, I look at it in the macro picture, man, sports, entertainment, all this kind of thing, and just go, when's the next time you're going to go to a concert? When's the next time you're going to go to gyms are opening up. I ain't going to no gym. I ain't sitting on that sweaty bench next to after that guy just worked out. Forget it.
Yeah.
Man.
No. One thing hopefully everybody's learned about gyms and working out and player development with strength and conditioning is that you don't need nearly as much as people are telling you need. If you're a little resourceful, you can stay in elite shape with the stuff you have in your garage and a hill and a ball and all this other stuff. So.
And that's one thing this has done, man. It has really simplified people's lives, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
It is absolutely simplified everything. And we just, we realize that, what? We all have just a bunch of stuff.
Right.
We just have a bunch of stuff. Like I can go out here. I'm up in the mountains right now, man. I can go run up a hill, man. I can, go. Took a couple rocks, dude, and do a couple workouts, man. That's all you need, man. That's all we ever needed, right? And so I think when it comes to that, most definitely, man. I think that people are learning that we can do a lot more with less.
I want to say this. I just spoke today to the Blue Jays about a couple of players that I had that are terrific players that they're contemplating taking in the draft. And I said, I'm doing a lot of work with my pro guys and some of my elite college players, and we're doing a lot of video and distance developing, what it really is. This is what I want you to do. I demonstrate, I send it to them, we talk, we chat, whatever it is. And I said, what is really starting to happen is both the player, coach, instructor are forced to become far more resourceful, far more self-reliant. And I think as a result, our self-esteem, our mutual self-esteem has skyrocketed because you can do it yourself. And the player now is feeling less reliant on all of the things that he may have been reliant on before, both human, the coach, and technologically. All of a sudden we're finding ways to work on fielding a ground ball, or work on hitting, or work on throw, whatever it might be. It's all being self-generated. And I hope that leads to a little bit of a renaissance where the player becomes more self-determining.
That's music to my ears. Okay. Because not only that,
I'm a musician.
and folks, on top of all this, he is a musician. I mean, God dang, man, check him out, man. But the point that is a fantastic point in the way that resiliency, right? That's what we've talked about more than anything now, that this is making people more resilient.
Definitely.
I feel like we got away of that as a race, as a human race. Okay. We got away against, hey, you know what? I'm in kind of a tight spot. Let me think my way out of this instead of going, well, what app do I have to help me with this? What, who can I call to do this for me? Right? No. You know what? You have to now do it yourself. And people are learning a lot about themselves. And I want to, I wanted to keep this around 27 minutes, but this is too good. There's no way, dude. We're gonna continue, man. And,
well, I have nowhere to go. So
well, that's funny. Either do I. So, but the point is that I want to get into, you talked about more about, working with hitting, working with players on hitting. And I've, obviously you got to check him out on Instagram at Tommy Weber Baseball. Check him out on Instagram and Twitter as well. And you put out these like real quick videos. Okay. Real quick video. Tell us about this is along the same lines as you're talking about now, I'm sure. But why did you start doing them now? And also, you're talking about a renaissance. Tell me more about why you think, and you're working with today's young hitters and pitchers more than likely, but mostly hitters. Tell me why you think this renaissance is coming.
Well, I don't know that it's coming. I'm hopeful the more I speak to people inside of organizations, especially young coaches and young instructors and coordinators, the more I realize they're searching for something that they're not getting. And players as well. There is something that's missing. And when you have a conversation with somebody and you're paying attention, you'll find out that they're searching for something, or they're unhappy, or they're unfulfilled. And I find that a lot. I found this out with players. Players feel like their voice is not heard. And they should feel that way because most of them came through a college experience where the players are basically told to shut up. The rules are made to shut everyone up. Nothing is more silent than a college baseball game. You know, there's a disclaimer at the beginning of every game. You know, anything, don't say anything, you know, homophobic, racist. Basically what they're saying is don't talk. And all conflict has been, as they have tried to erase conflict from the game. You can't argue with an umpire. You can't, you know, I've always
loses character.
Any rule that begins with "you can't say" is a rule I think we could do without. I am I love it. Advocate of the First Amendment, both on the bad and, you know, in order to protect speech, you got to protect the speech that offends you as much as you do the speech that you're in favor of. So for me, you know, I'm a big word advocate. I don't think words hurt you. I think actions hurt you. And what we've convinced a generation of players is that their place is to shut up. So what that did was it over-involved and it over-vested the coach, the instructor, the parent. So now their role magnified. The player's role became kind of like a dependent. I'm dependent upon you. I'm dependent on you to drive me to my games, to drive me to my practices. I'm dependent on you to give me the signs if you're the manager and I'm the catcher. I'm dependent on you to make sure I'm standing in the right place if I'm in the outfield. So all self-reliance was really chipped away. And as a result, you know, there's no progress without a price. The price we paid was players' self-esteem plummeted. Yes. It just did. It has to. Why? They can't do it. They're not allowed. It's not that they can't. They are certainly capable. They're as capable as we ever were, if they're allowed to, but they're not allowed to be self-reliant.
Or to fail.
Or to fail. Right. Because you want to pave the way. So what you've gotten now is a culture of false positives. We're going to put you in this cage. We're going to set up the environment so that we underhand you the ball. We're going to measure what you do so that you leave here thinking somehow that you are far better than in fact you really are. When the reality is the rubber only meets the road. When you step between the white lines, you have to compete. You're a little desperate and nobody's there to help you. If you can't flourish in that performance environment, then you are going to be of no use to anyone. And I think we've done a terrible disservice to the players, me included. Everybody in my generation has created this generation. I'm not in any way absolving myself of the responsibility. But I do believe, and I am encouraged by when I speak to people and people ask me for advice or ask me to write or ask me to do a video, which basically I have to say this. I came to this very unwillingly. I am a very private person. I didn't want anything to do with social media. I was purposely ignorant. But the encouraging of some of my coach brethren, especially Jason Kanzler, who's been asking me forever to do this, opened the door for me to do it. And now I'm writing and I'm saying and I'm making videos and I'm, you know what? It's just a voice. It's not for the purpose of getting into a fight with the Twitter sphere. Okay, which is very easy to do.
Don't even, it's a non-starter, and not only that, it's a lesson in futility, my friend.
Right, it certainly is. And all I want to do, I just have a little voice. I can't change the world. I could change my little piece of it. Is give people just maybe, just like in my classes at St. John's, maybe there's another way to look at this. Maybe. Yeah. That's all. And once that enters, and I will hang my head on one thing. I'll hang my hat on this. There is nothing more important to the development of a young person in anything they do than the sovereignty of thought and their ability to do it on their own. Nothing.
Wow. Hey, my man, freaking men. I'm telling you, that is hey, Mr. Tommy Weber, folks, right there for you. And sovereignty of thought and, you know, doing things on your own, resiliency, you know. And so that is something that, you know, out of every crisis, terrible things opportunity comes,
No
right?
doubt.
And different ideas come. And this is kind of like, to me, this is like the great reset. It's a rebirth. It's a rebirth of values sometimes, of thoughts, of people doing things that want nothing to do with social media, to putting it out there and saying, hey, you know what? We don't need 13 coaches in the dugout. Okay. We need for players to not now. Let's just go back to how we really feel. Let's have them be resilient and figure it out. Okay. Ask for help when they need it. I will give you my 2 cents when I see something that I think that might benefit you, but don't over encompass them. Don't shroud them under cover and do everything for them. And I think that can also be related to the world. Okay, not
Absolutely.
just baseball. I think it's coming in everything that we do. And I think it's healthy, even though during a terrible crisis like this, I think it is healthy sometimes to get, hey, I need a gut check, man. What's going on here? What's really going on here?
That is a incredibly salient point, and I couldn't agree more that, the words you never hear, the 2020 hitting instructor guru, Twittiot guy on Twitter,
my God.
is the words you'll never hear. You never hear, hey, you know what? You're ready. Now go get them.
Yeah.
You never hear that. You never hear those words that emancipate the player, which is something I use the word emancipate and discover a lot. And very few people use those words, because what it means is I can't create something that's not there. We can discover what's there, but I can't create what's there. When people say to me, hey, what'd you do with Hunter Bishop? Hunter Bishop. You know what I did? I saw him, watched him throw, run, and hit, and then said, you know what? I'm going to get out of your way, because you've already got this. Now, did we have great discussions? Do we have great discussions? Absolutely. But it's almost never about swing mechanics and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's about life,
launch angle.
Man. How to deal with, stuff that happens in your life and in your game. And that's what you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, no matter how much mayonnaise you put on it. I'm sorry. And if that offends people, that's the way it goes.
I don't care, hey, man. You're on ChoochCast, man. Spit it out, man. I don't care. I love it. I love it, man.
Damn. I mean, I can't create the player. He is what he is.
Right. No doubt about it. And all these hitting gurus and yes, exactly, man. You cannot make chicken salad out of chicken shit, man. It ain't gonna happen. And I love the fact that, and we'll wrap it up here pretty soon, man. But I just wanted to, the fact that you put it in a box, man, saying that, hey, you know what? There's certain people, and I've been reading a lot more about this, and I've always thought this, this, man, but there's certain hitters, you just let them go. Certain pitchers I've worked with, I'm like, you're good. You're good, man. Okay. No sweat. You look great, man. You might want to, work inside a little bit more, that kind of stuff. But, and there's, like you said, there's too much. I hate this word efficient. I can't stand that word, because I think we've taken it to a level where it makes people on edge. Like they always think they have to get 100% of every situation. Not realistic. And not only that, it makes people always worrying about what they're doing instead of being natural. And I think that's pretty much what you were speaking about.
Yeah, when I managed, I used to tell my pitchers, I'm not going to call your pitchers. You know why?
No.
Because when I can pitch better than you, then I'll call your pitches. Until then, you're the best suited to call your pitches. And I'll say this last thing too as well. I think the quest for perfection has done more to hurt the modern player than anything else, because now a player thinks that even if he hits a double, if it's not hit the right way, somehow he has failed. So you give him so few opportunities to actually succeed. The reality is, I don't care if you hit a little flare into right field, or the catcher balks, whatever it might be. There's a million ways you can succeed. And I think all of us should strive to get our players, our children, whatever it is, to one point, and that is good enough.
Man, Tommy, you know what? You do not disappoint, my friend. And it has been a while for us, man. Too long. And I'll take that one on my. I've been busy, but not busy. But I want to say this, man. We're back on the horse. I love having you back on. Thank you so much for coming on. And not only that, you know, it's great to hear not only a sensible voice, but a passionate voice about what you're doing and how you want to positively affect people. And, you know, and that is going to go a long way in helping us all get through this, man. So, you know what, man?
I had great parents.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Most definitely. Excellent. All right. Mr. Tommy Weber, folks, I want to say thank you very much for taking time out of your day. But not only that, we will be doing this again very, very soon, man. And love having you on. Love what you're doing. You stay safe out there in New York. And I will stay safe out here in the hills of Northern California. And we will we'll get through this, man. We'll get through this.
But,
you know, folks, take a little bit of lesson from what you heard today. Take it out into the world and go enjoy yourself. You can do it. You can be resilient. And when put in that position, you can go a lot farther than you think you could go before. So, all right, Mr. Tommy Weber on ChoochCast. And you take care of yourself, man. Thanks again for coming on. Love the hat. Love the love just the quotations and just everything that is embodied in this conversation. I appreciate it, folks. ChoochCast coming to you live on Mondays and Thursdays now at 10 a.m. Sprinkled in between, we'll get the guest appearance from Mr. Tommy Weber, and keep your eyes open for that. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. And not only that, go check out Tommy Weber Baseball on Instagram and Twitter. What a fantastic guest and what a fantastic man. Mr. Weber, you take care of yourself, my friend.
Thanks, pal. You know where to find me. I'm always here for you. Love you. Be good.
All right. Right back at you, Tommy. You take care. All right. ChoochCast is out.